Imagine a tiny, seemingly insignificant chip sparking chaos in the global automotive industry once more, proving that even the most basic components can hold the world hostage. In an era where supply chains are supposed to be bulletproof, the Nexperia chip crisis has exposed gaping vulnerabilities, leaving automakers scrambling and reminding us all why geopolitics and manufacturing are inextricably linked. But here's where it gets controversial. Is China's grip on these mundane parts a strategic weapon, or just an unfortunate side effect of global interdependence? Stick around, because this story dives deep into how one factory in China's industrial heartland became a flashpoint for international tensions. And you'll discover the lessons most industries are still missing. Summary: the Nexperia chip crisis has once again disrupted automotive supply chains, highlighting how China's control over everyday components can stall global production. Experts point out that car manufacturers neglected to diversify their supplies after previous disruptions like the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 and the 2021 fire at a Japanese factory. Meanwhile, the Dutch government initially seized control of Nexperia due to national security concerns, only to reverse course recently, potentially paving the way for resolution. China's influence over supply chains isn't limited to high-tech gadgets or rare materials. It extends to ordinary parts that are essential yet overlooked, creating ripple effects across international manufacturing. Automakers, it seems, haven't internalized the warnings from past shortages, as noted by industry observers. And speaking of twists, the Dutch administration's about-face on Nexperia suggests a diplomatic breakthrough might be on the horizon. Dongguan, China, November 24. Picture this. A modest factory beside an overgrown field in southern China's bustling industrial zone has morphed into a critical bottleneck for automotive chips, derailing an industry that promised it was prepared for such shocks after recent history. Just a few years back, following the turmoil caused by COVID-19 in 2020, which crippled semiconductor production, and the fire at a Japanese plant in 2021 that worsened shortages, automakers vowed to fortify their supply networks. Yet, the turmoil surrounding Nexperia, a Dutch chip firm, revealed a major oversight. The sector never anticipated that basic, low-tech chips could be leveraged by China as a tool against Western interests. Sign up here for more updates on this unfolding story. No one anticipated geopolitical upheavals, and they're still woefully unprepared, remarked Ambrose Conroy, CEO of US-based Seraph Consulting, which provides guidance to carmakers. Late in September, the Dutch government assumed control of Netherlands-based Nexperia, worried that its innovations might be shared with its Chinese owner, Wingtech, 600745.ss. In response, Beijing blocked shipments of completed Nexperia chips from the facility in the Pearl River Delta region. Last week, however, the Netherlands backed away from its takeover decision, hinting at a possible resolution. From its Dongguan site, Nexperia dispatches semiconductors that power everyday car features, like brakes and electric windows. Priced at mere fractions of a penny apiece, their scarcity compelled Nissan and Honda to slash output, while German giant Bosch reduced factory shifts to cope. This narrative draws from conversations with over a dozen insiders, including auto executives, suppliers, and chip dealers, who explained how lean, just-in-time inventory methods and insufficient diversification left manufacturers exposed to political turmoil. The investigation also illustrates China's sway, stretching from advanced tech and rare earth elements to everyday but vital parts, and how Beijing uses this leverage to halt worldwide operations. Unreported details include the extent of Bosch's dependency and the hurdles companies face with yuan-based transactions. Although the Dutch authorities claimed the Nijmegen headquarters, the Chinese operations stayed under Wingtech's oversight. The Dutch believed they'd captured Nexperia, but it was just an empty office, observed Li Xing, an international relations professor at the Guangdong Institute for International Strategies, a think tank. This incident demonstrates that even in mid- and low-tier categories, reliance on China persists. If Beijing decides to exert pressure, there's no escape route. In a statement, a Wingtech representative emphasized that Nexperia has thrived post-acquisition. This situation underscores how dismantling global firms damages supply lines and jeopardizes essential sectors, they added. China's Commerce Ministry did not reply to inquiries. A Nexperia spokesperson highlighted the semiconductor world's intricate nature, making political impacts unpredictable. Case study for political risk. Nexperia's chips were deemed so affordable and plentiful that one major European automaker didn't bother securing backups, as shared by an insider. These are straightforward electronics at bargain prices, the source noted, requesting anonymity for discussing confidential matters. The Nexperia saga illustrates how manufacturers' weaknesses go beyond cutting-edge tech, according to Alfredo Montufar-Helu, managing director at Ancura Consulting in Beijing. Despite Bosch purchasing €200 million, $231 million annually in Nexperia goods, it lacked ready alternatives initially, per a knowledgeable individual. Bosch chose not to comment. Nexperia restarted deliveries to local distributors in late October, but insisted on yuan payments instead of prior foreign currencies, an apparent move by the Chinese unit to gain autonomy from Dutch oversight. As Reuters reported, ready chips accumulated at Dongguan due to transaction processing issues, though the situation has improved, sources indicated. A Wingtech spokesperson denied any chip backlog or yuan-related problems, offering no further details. China permitted some Nexperia exports to recommence this month, following a meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and China's Xi Jinping in Seoul, just as Bosch and partners, Aumovio, ZF Group, and Helen neared production halts, a brief source revealed. Bosch, Aumovio, and ZF withheld comments. The Hella representative confirmed stable supply chains. During a recent Reuters visit to the Dongguan plant, blinds were partially closed, trucks maneuvered in the loading zone, and scooters dotted the exterior. Austria's Melix and tech giant Apple supplier Jabil secured Nexperia chips by collaborating with Chinese firms, enabling yuan settlements, per the sources. Melix declined comment, and Jabil ignored repeated requests. Automakers didn't learn lesson. The shortage exposed that carmakers ignored past teachings, said Julie Boot, an autos analyst at Pelham Smithers Associates in London. You'd think they'd maintain several months' stock of chips, she explained. That's what they pledged post-last crisis. Nissan's chief performance officer, Guillaume Cartier, acknowledged that overhauling supply chains is lengthy. I hear the criticism. Didn't you learn? He shared with Reuters recently. Sure, but can you revamp everything in 3 years? The deficit led Nissan to reduce output of its popular Rogue SUV, posing ongoing threats for the year ahead. Conroy, the consultant, urges holding extra inventories of key parts locally, a pricey shift for an industry fixated on cost-saving, just-in-time methods. Not every automaker suffered equally. Toyota, for instance, requires stockpiling months' worth of chips as part of its disaster recovery strategy from the 2011 Japan earthquake. A Toyota spokesperson noted potential risks to production and pledged ongoing vigilance. The cost of resilience, a related hurdle, involves integrating chips into vehicles. Nexperia's semiconductors feature in power modules that regulate electricity and are directly soldered onto parts, preventing simple swaps. Explained Nori Chu, investment director at White Oak Capital Partners. Swapping components demands rigorous testing, extending timelines by months, Chu added. Nexperia spokesperson agreed that replacements aren't instant, as seemingly identical parts can behave differently in cars. Germany's Hella explores alternative vendors, but verifications might stretch to a year, exceeding early estimates, an industry source said. Hella's representative stated they're pivoting to pre-approved secondary suppliers for continuity. Montufar-Helu from Ancura Consulting warned that fortifying against chip bottlenecks won't be straightforward or inexpensive. Talk will turn to resilience and diversification again, he predicted. But soon they'll grasp the true expense. For beginners trying to wrap their heads around this, think of it like this. Supply chains are like a massive game of Jenga. Pull one wrong piece, and everything topples. In this case, low-cost chips are that unnoticed block at the bottom, and geopolitical tensions are the shaky hand. To build stronger towers, companies might need to invest in backups, even if it costs more upfront, ensuring they don't rebuild from scratch every crisis. And this is the part most people miss. While some hail China's dominance as economic efficiency, others see it as a form of leverage that could escalate into larger trade wars. Is this a wake-up call for Western nations to reshore more production? Or does it simply highlight the benefits of global collaboration? Do you think automakers are doomed to repeat these mistakes? Or can technology and diplomacy bridge the gap? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you side with the experts calling for diversification? Or do you believe China's control is overstated? Let's discuss.